Colin was right.
I said the Rams are going to win their division, but keep your eye on the defense, not Matt Stafford. And they just held their last three opponents to single figures. This defense is really good and getting better. They're very reliant offensively on Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams. But I've said before, I think they're a good team, but not a Super Bowl team. But everybody was loving San Francisco, and I said, nope, they're getting old, expensive, and brittle. Keep your eye on the Rams to win the division and watch this defense, and they delivered.
Yeah, you know what's really funny? Because I remember in the beginning of the season, before the season even started, Colin said, hey, I think the Rams will actually be pretty good. And I said the same thing and took a lot of heat for that. I remember a lot of people were coming at Colin and myself, for that matter, saying, oh, no way, their defense is going to be a problem. They're missing big dog Aaron. Like, how of course it's going to matter. Matthew Stafford's old, this, that, and the third. And like, here they are. They're coming. And the reality is this team would have been even better if they didn't deal. I mean, if Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp didn't go down, the whole line practically, they'd have even more wins. I mean, I think it would be safe to say to give them at least one more win, let alone two. And then they're a top seed in the NFC. So they're would be technically just a top record in the NFL. So I think what the Rams and McVay have been able to do has been really, really, really impressive. And before they kind of got healthy, I remember being like, the Rams are going to come. The Rams are going to come as soon as, they're healthy now. They're going to really be able to play great and turn this around. And it was a little bit of a slower start. Not as fast as one would have hoped. But again, it makes sense. Just because you get a player back who's been gone for a while doesn't mean that, like, okay, now it's just like playing with him there. Like, no, he's got to get reintegrated. He's kind of got to get back into shape. Like, he's got to shake off some rust. It's going to take a second or two, especially depending on the various injuries. You kind of have to, like, retrust your body. Like, even if it wasn't a severe injury, even if it's just something nagging, like it's still a process. So, it wasn't this smooth sailing. And again, I'm not going to act like these wins are like these big time wins. 13-9. The one win against the 49ers was, what I forget that score. Was it 9-6 or 12-6 it ended up being? So it's not like the Rams are just having their way. They definitely have their work cut out for them. No doubt about it. Especially when you're talking about going up against these high-powered offenses. As they saw going up against the going up against the Bills, but still obviously able to pull off these wins. And that's the thing. When you're talking about having so many big time players who can make these big time plays, which I always talk about, like, that will always be a threat in the playoffs. Always. And I'm not so sure I have a deep understanding of what I believe the Rams will be able to do in the playoffs. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, the Rams absolutely can get to the Super Bowl, and then once they're there, who's gonna stop them? The Chiefs or the Bills? No way, they already beat the Bills. Like, I'm not prepared to make those types of statements right now, not even close. But I am confident and I am prepared to say that, like, nobody should want to face them. I'm not so sure there's any team in the NFC this year that you should want to face, honestly. I think probably if you had to choose, it would be the Buccaneers, but even the Buccaneers can be scary. Like, if they're hot, they're hot. But it's just like playoffs. I just know just Sean McVay, Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp alone, that they are going to be there. They are going to put their team in a position to not only win the game, but like make that play that just rips your heart out if you're the opposing team. We've seen it. We've seen it. So yeah, I mean, I'm just like, who wants to face this team? Who wants to face this team? Now again, they will have to have some tough wins on the road, which is why Colin's like, he thinks that they're a year away, and I think that's probably fair. But if their defense can hold their own and their offense can kind of like regain a little bit of momentum, then that would obviously go an incredibly long way. But I think it's so interesting to me because when I look at certain teams, I try to figure out kind of what do they need to wrap up this season to feel good about where they are. And I think for the Bills, for instance, they had like a weird tough win against the Patriots. And I was like, that's not good. That's not good energy. That's not good vibes. And they're playing the Jets, and I'm like, you can't have another game like that. You can't have a 13-9 game if you're the Bills. You need to be able to beat the Jets convincingly. I don't care, division, yeah, whatever. The Jets are not good. You have Super Bowl aspirations. You just had a weird win that you could have lost, quite frankly, against the Patriots and Drake May. You better step up. You got to play big. You got to feel good. We saw the Texans do it. We saw the Eagles do it. We saw, not the Texans do it. We saw the Ravens do it against the Texans. We saw the Chiefs do it. It's like, you got to get that win. Let's see it. And they did it. They got the win against the Jets. Now, in a weird way, I don't think that the Rams winning the way that they're winning is such a bad thing, because where the Rams are right now, being able to win these tough, grittier games and just, essentially relying on we're just going to make less mistakes than you, I think is totally fair game for this team right now and where they're at. Because I do think that they have the potential to pile on the points at any moment, like we saw against the Bills. And I think sometimes it's so important, especially when you have a big arm quarterback like Stafford and these big play wide receivers like Nacua and Puka Nacua. I think it's so important to be able to let everyone really understand, hey, we can win without these big plays. And you see this with the Packers. Like, they lack that ability in a lot of ways. They can't get their offense going without these big chunk plays. And so it's kind of like when those plays aren't going, it's like, uh-oh, what do we do here? In some ways, I'd love to see the Packers win a 13-9 game and have it still be like a clean game and not have it be like this was an ugly game where we fumbled the ball twice and had 2 interceptions. And that's what you kind of want to see with the Rams. Like, let's make no mistake about it. You had Matthew Stafford 17 for 32, 189 yards, 5.9 yards per attempt, and a 71 rating. That's obviously not this big time pounding my chest here, okay? They rushed for 68 yards, 22 carries. Stafford getting 6 of those carries for 16. Puka Nacua 129, 10 receptions, and Cooper Kupp only 1. So again, hardly anything to write home about. But they never really made that mistake. And that's what I was kind of looking for. They did not make that mistake. There was not that, oh my God, fumble, or oh my God, interception. And when we see the Cardinals, they obviously had that. And that ends up being the difference. Because even the Cardinals, right, they had 24 first downs to the Rams 12. 6 for 13 on third down. The Rams were 6 for 15. 0 for 2 on fourth down, 0 for 0 for the Rams. 7 penalties to 9 penalties. But they stopped Kyler Murray in the red zone 1 out of 4 times, which is fantastic. And the Rams only got to the red zone twice. So, again, if this was maybe a little bit earlier on in the season or under different circumstances for how the Rams team unfolded, I would be like, yeah, you won, but I'm not really sure what this was. Yeah, your time of possession was 23 minutes to 36 minutes. The score was 13-9. You got to the red zone twice. You had 12 first downs on 10 total drives. Like, what are we doing here? What the heck was that? You ran the ball for a whopping, 68 or whatever the total was? Yeah, 68 yards. Like, what the heck was that? And that would be all fair criticism. It would be. It would be all completely fair criticism. And you would be concerned. Which is why I'm not saying, like, all right, this team, man, they're coming. They're peaking at the right time. Here we go. But I do think a win like this is a little bit underrated because it's not flashy. It's not exciting. Everyone was talking about Justin Herbert and the Chargers big win, and Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and the Vikings. Like we saw some big high level football, big time throws. But we've already seen Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, etc., do that so many times. I want to see them continue to be able to win some of these ugly games. Because I know if Puka Nacua and Stafford are on one in the playoffs, and they're able to get those first downs and get that, run game going, well, it's like, well, yeah, I know they're going to put up points. But when things are not going that way, Cooper Kupp's not getting as involved as you would like. He's not having like a big time exciting play. Puka Nacua is not feasting and catching 2 touchdown passes and celebrating both arms in the air like, let's go. And Stafford's giving him kind of like a hug headbutt type of a thing. And McVay's nodding his head like, all right, that's what we do. It's like, you want to be able to see them kind of have those wins. Definitely. Because looking at their past schedule and how they won is really tough because of all the injuries. But we could see them eking out, they lose that game 23-15 against the Dolphins. We can see them eke out that win 21-14 against the Saints. Hardly anything to write home about. But then they hang 44 on the Bills, come away with the win there. And then the Rams versus 49ers, the 12-6, right? Like, again, that was a very bizarre game, quite frankly. Matthew Stafford almost threw like 9 interceptions in the first quarter. They beat the Jets 19-9. Like, you're starting to kind of see a pattern here, 13-9. And so it just kind of changes things. We see them hang 44, but then we also see them be able to win with 12. And I think being able to kind of show both, considering how this team's season has unfolded, and again the various injuries and just kind of maybe what the current expectations are here, I think is so important. Because in a way, I would almost be more concerned. Let's say they hung 44 and beat the Bills, and then they hung like 35 against the 49ers, 42 on the Jets, and let's say they just kept piling on points. I would almost be like, yeah, that's awesome, but I'm not so sure you're going to do that against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not so sure you're going to do that against the Minnesota Vikings. Like, that's probably not how that game is necessarily going to go. So to see them over these last few weeks win these tough, low-scoring games, I really do think that actually ends up being momentum building in a way that really significantly helps the Rams, in a way that I don't think it would have helped the Buffalo Bills or something, or even the Philadelphia Eagles for that matter. The Philadelphia Eagles just played the Cowboys. If they won like 21-10, I would be like, nah. Congrats, you held, Cooper Rush to 10 points. That is great, fantastic. But like, and I know they had a backup quarterback, so it would have, you would have been able to explain it a little bit more, but it still wouldn't have been enough. So I think it works for the Rams in a weird kind of way. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Rams? How are you feeling about how this season's coming to an end? Do you have like true expectations for them in the playoffs? Do you think that they can actually make some moves? Or do you think kind of like, hey, you know what? This is what it is. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.